Greetings, fellow Whovians! Sorry if the audio is a little bit loud. Yes, I'm back, I'm live, and I'm here. I'm the Doc 11th. Welcome back to Doctor Who Series 8 Episode Reviews, Episode 3, Robot of Sherwood. So obviously, I reviewed Into the Dalek last week, and the week before that, of course, the fantastic series opener, Deep Breath. But this week, it is Episode 3, Robot of Sherwood. This episode is hated by quite a few people, actually. Not going to name any, but I've seen some hate comments already, and the episode has literally only just finished. So I have seen quite a bit of hate comments about the episode, mainly because it was boring, uncreative, and written by Mike Gatiss, whatever. But I personally, and this is just my own opinion, you don't have to take it into account whatsoever, but this is my personal opinion. As a child, when I was younger, I grew up with Robin Hood. Fantastic, legend stories. I grew up with the stories, I've seen all the films, everything. Really enjoyed it. And when Clara, she was telling the story of Robin Hood, I kind of felt quite close to Clara, which is the idea of having a companion, of course, in Doctor Who. And the idea of having a companion is, well, of course, so the companion can get through to the Doctor, like the audience get through to the Doctor through the companion. And the fact that Clara was all this big story about Robin Hood and things made me feel, quite close and quite at home, to be honest. So I rather actually enjoyed the episode. Of course, at the opening scene, of course, we had the spoon sword fight with Robin Hood and the Doctor. The fact the Doctor could sword fight that well with a spoon is fantastic. I can sort of fence if it's choreographed, but, the Doctor fighting with a spoon like that is pretty hard. That's like watching Captain Hook and Peter Pan have a fight. Captain Hook's got a big sword, Peter Pan's got a little dagger. Robin Hood had a big sword, the Doctor had a spoon. Sort of. But the fact that, of course, the Doctor thought it was, the fact that obviously the Doctor thought it was thought Robin Hood was a robot. Yeah, spoilers by the way. The fact he thought it was a robot kind of, well, quite a big thing to the story arc. And of course we saw it again. Now, we didn't see Missy in this episode. Which I can kind of understand why we didn't see Missy, but that's because I kind of predicted the shower in the first two episodes, not in the third one, not in the fourth one, maybe in the fifth and sixth, not in the seventh, not in the eighth, a little bit in the ninth, and then not in the 10th, but in the 11th and 12th, obviously, she's big for the finale. Maybe she'll be in the Christmas special, but I seriously doubt it. So, of course, Missy wasn't in this episode. However, we did see the promise. Well, we saw that the Sheriff of Nottingham and his robot army planned to go to, well, the Promised Land. Now, Clockwork Droids, I will not die. I will reach the Promised Land. These were trying to get to the Promised Land. Now, let's think. This is just a connection. This is my theory. Okay, so we have Clockwork Droids. They were robots. Technically, they were clockwork robots. We have episode 2, which was the Dalek. No Promised Land, but we got Missy. Episode 3, we have robots. They're going to the Promised Land. Well, this Promised Land, is it where Missy is? Is it the heaven? Is the Promised Land a prophecy? Something. But I like the little tweaks. Is the Promised Land actually Easter egged somewhere in the Doctor's TARDIS? Because obviously in the opening scene, we saw the Doctor drawing on the chalkboard. Now, the Doctor drawing on the chalkboard, is as Stephen Moffat put, the finale and the story arc right slap bang in front of our eyes, somewhere on those chalkboards, but it's been on so quick, we haven't really took any notice to it. I think he maybe have done. He maybe has done. So, obviously, I think that the Promised Land isn't where Missy is going. Now, think about this robot on the Promised Land thing. Missy claimed in episode 1, when the Clockwork Half-Faced Man died, she said, welcome, she said, well done, you've reached the Promised Land. Welcome to heaven. Oh, it's a little bit extended like that. It was extending more than that, but she said the Promised Land. Now, is heaven, in speech marks, as she calls it, is that the Promised Land? I mean, it does kind of look like the garden from The Girl Who Waited. So, is she living in Appalachia? I think it were called. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is she living in Appalachia? And that's the same thing. Or is it just a set reuse? Or is it just like a little Easter egg? I'm not sure. But, yeah. So, if the robots are trying to get to the Promised Land, Half-Faced Man dies, goes to the Promised Land. Robots in this episode die. Never see Missy, but you do see there going to the Promised Land. Now, the finale, episode 11 and 12, the two-part finale, Dark Waters and Death in Heaven, which obviously I predicted the Doctor would die and have to go to heaven, at which point the Cybermen would be invading heaven. Now, the Cybermen are technically robots. Are they also looking to get to the Promised Land? What is the Promised Land? And are they trying to get to some other place that is Gallifrey the Promised Land? We don't know, but I seriously doubt Gallifrey would come back in Series 8. I think it might be Series 9, Series 10. Depends. Maybe it won't even be with Pete Capaldi. I don't know. Maybe it'll be with the 13th Doctor. But back on to Robot of Sherwood. I actually really liked this episode. Don't know what it was about it. I suppose the fact that there was action, there was comedy, there was the Doctor not liking laughter. Kind of makes him a bit of a sad old man. The banter and the wit between the Doctor and Robin Hood. Tom Riley played Robin Hood fantastically in this episode. Pete Capaldi also was great as always. He is a fantastic Doctor. And of course, Jenna Coleman just made the episode just by being in it. But anyway, I loved the story arc with Main Marion, and the episode was actually quite good. I would have preferred more of a mystery to it. Of course, they had to cut the scene out, but obviously the beheading scene. They did have to cut that episode out. But, not that episode, that scene out. But even though that scene wasn't in it, I couldn't actually say where that scene was supposed to be, because I haven't seen the unedited version or anything like that. So I kind of, it didn't really affect the story in any way, cutting out this beheading scene. I predicted it would be when the Sheriff of Nottingham stabbed that man at the start. Well, it's like near the start of the episode, because he stabbed that man, which, as he first drew his sword out, I thought he was going to literally behead him. But they cut it out. So maybe he did just like, maybe he did stab him and then behead him, but maybe they cut that little bit out. I'm not sure. But even though they cut that beheading scene out, or whatever in the episode it was supposed to be, I actually really enjoyed the episode. I mean, some people really didn't like it. Not sure why. But some people really didn't like it. Now, I'm just going to break for a bit, since we've kind of got a viewer who's just disappeared. And probably will come back soon, because they've been going on and off. But anyway. Yeah. So, I'm not going to break, I'm going to carry on talking until the viewer comes back. So, Robots of Sherwood. Obviously, I've explained what I think the story arc's going to be, and about Promised Land and stuff, and the robots. I think we'll see more robots later on in the series. I believe we've got the cyborg birds, which basically robots. We've got the Cybermen. We've got the Clockwork robots, and of course we had these robots from Sherwood, which they actually spoke, which was quite cool, and the new enemy. Not sure what the enemy's called though. I think they're just called robot, but I'm not sure. They were still quite good enemies. I would love a 3.75 figure of them. Even if, well, I'd prefer it if, like, you know, like if they released a Robot Knight and then they did the open-faced one, or if they sort of, released a figure of the robots, the robot army, but like you could sort of slide off like the front of his face, so it sort of looked, so you could see like the purple thing that he shot people with. But anyway, if you viewers have any questions, you can send them in live for me about my thoughts on the episode. Has to be about Robot of Sherwood though, or just Doctor Who Series 8. Please send the questions in live so that I can answer them live and extend this review. Because I'm doing it live means I can have it for about 8 hours, but I'm not going to do it for 8 hours. I'm going to do it until 10, not until 10, until 9, until 10 past 9. So you've got till 10 past 9 to send me your questions and let me talk about the episode and answer the questions. So, back onto the topic of Robot of Sherwood. I was going to call it Robots because that's the original title, but it would actually call Robot. Anyway, Robot of Sherwood. Well, this episode, obviously, we saw it featured the robots and the Sheriff of Nottingham, and of course Robin Hood, and the fact the Doctor didn't believe in him, Clara growing up with a myth. The Doctor had the book, which, when he pulled the book out of his bookshop, I actually think that was the Gallifreyan interpretation of Robin Hood, so actually really that little Easter egg, well, not really Easter egg, but the fact the Doctor had heard the story of Robin Hood was good. Of course, the Doctor seems to be visiting Earth quite a lot. I mean, episode 1, Victorian London, Earth. Episode 2, he was in a spaceship, so not really Earth, but just above Earth. Episode 3, Earth in Nottingham, Sherwood Forest. Episode 4, looks like he's on Earth. I'm not sure about episode 5, but yeah. So, episode 3, Robot of Sherwood. Well, I've explained my thoughts on it. Mark Gatiss, I think he actually wrote this episode quite well. I rather enjoyed it. Not sure why. Maybe it was the fact that Clara liked Robin Hood. I grew up the story of Robin Hood. I liked the story of Robin Hood and his merry men. The actors in the episode were fantastic. Tom Riley did fantastic. The Doctor using a bow. Ladies and gentlemen, the Doctor using a bow. Having a competition with a bow. That was just absolutely fan-bloody-tastic. The Doctor firing a bow. The fact the Doctor can fire that much, but then revealed that he, well, like, made a trick and he cheated. But Robin Hood firing them that well, and of course, Sheriff of Nottingham firing them that well. But still, the special effects in this episode were actually surprisingly really good. I'm surprised at how well they did with this episode, and I really enjoyed it. Now, if you've got any questions, send them in, please, live, so I can answer them. Now, just going to go on to the fact that I was on about episode 4. Now, episode 4 is set on, well, what looks like Earth. Has hands under beds and different children getting grabbed by hands under the bed. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to stand in front of my bed on a night time after watching episode 4. I'm pretty sure at that. The Doctor, obviously, in pressing Clara's hand, well, I think it's Clara's hand, it has a ring on its finger, so I'm not sure. Might even be the Doctor. But it's someone pressing someone's hand on, like, one of the parts of the console and the TARDIS and, like, electric. Of course, Danny Pink is back, but older, as the Doctor got scrambled in his timeline, ended up going further into his time stream. I'm not sure. But is Clara still physically attracted to him? Now, episode 4 is, of course, the first time the Doctor, Danny Pink, comes into the TARDIS. It is also the episode where Clara goes on a date with Danny. it's the episode where we see this. Now, looking forward to seeing how that romance goes and the fact that she follows him and stuff, and then he ends up in the TARDIS with a beard and long hair and all sorts. But I'm absolutely loving the series so far, and Peter Capaldi is a fantastic actor to be playing the 12th Doctor. Would prefer to be playing the Doctor myself, but that ain't gonna happen. Well, until he leaves. But anyway, really enjoyed this episode. Now, I know I said I was going to stay till like 9:10, but I've kind of no viewers right now and no questions. So, no, I do. I have a viewer. Hi, viewer. Hi. No, the viewer gone again. Darn it. Why do I keep getting viewers? It's like, I think it's the same viewer. She's like, come on, go, come on, go, come on, go. And they'll be off for a bit, and then they'll come back on again, and I'll just be like, But obviously I've got to make these videos as if I'm talking to you guys, even after you're watching it after the broadcast. Not really sure. But anyway, I need to stop talking so fast, because this is a Doctor Who review. Obviously next week I'll be reviewing episode 4, Listen. Felt like a fantastic episode in the series, and I cannot wait to see it. But for now, that is me going to be saying goodbye. Thanks for watching my spoilerific episode review of Robot of Sherwood. I've been the Doc 11th. Good night. See you soon. I love you all, people.